Hello and welcome to the Knights of Lorcana, where people in this league battle head-to-head in a best-of-3 match once a week, except this time it's going to be a little bit different. Why is that? Well, I'm going to tell you. The big reason why this is going to be so different is because we have Hole in the Earth and Alstorian, and while they were not actually paired together on the leaderboard, they have something a little different, which is where they are allowed a challenge, one challenge a week against anyone that they so choose. And in this case, they said, hey, let's go head-to-head and see who is the better of the best of us. And right now, it's kind of interesting too because Hole in the Earth has a little bit of a thing to prove in this league, if you will, especially because week one did not exactly go his way. He did take a challenge in his matchup, and unfortunately, his challenge didn't exactly go as he saw, and he ended up sadly losing his match. And so with that, he is trying to gain and make an impact onto the leaderboard and climb it up to the best of it he can and bounce back with this intense matchup against Alstorian. Now, for that being in mind, he is an absolute boss of a player and has proven also on the leaderboard that he has what it takes to be a force to be reckoned with in this great league. And so that's going to be a little bit difficult, but Hole in the Earth is not intimidated by this matchup whatsoever, and he is going to be looking to take it all the way to the end. And if he's going to die, it's not going to be for the lack of trying. Now, with that being said, though, we have officially finished week one of this amazing league, and surprisingly, it went really good. We didn't have anything go crazy wrong. Nothing exploded except for my board stayed a couple of times. But other than that, it's been an absolute blast. And so if you do want to be a part of this league, go ahead and join the Discord down below. Accept the League Night role and go to the sign up and go ahead and enter in your information. Doing so will allow you to then go ahead and get everything taken care of so that you too can go ahead and join this league. And then on the coming Monday, you will get your matchup as well, and you will be able to compete just like everyone else. It's a great time, and we're going to be happy to have you. But with that being said, Amber Steel versus Blurple, who's going to win? Well, it's going to be a very tough matchup, especially if Amber Steel can go ahead and be on the aggro side and just race to the finish here. Blurple's going to be having a very difficult time. You're really going to be hoping that Blurple can at least get the win of the dice roll, because being that one turn ahead to really start the ramp going is going to be exactly what they need to try to get this game in the bag. If they're not going to be able to get things going and messing up on a little bit of ramp, then this is going to be a very tough matchup going against Amber Steel, and it's going to be a GG. So without any further ado, though, let's go ahead and dive in. All right, and Alstorian and Hole in the Earth are officially finishing their shuffle up. They're going to be looking at their hand to see what they can possibly do to get this mulligan going and getting the most optimal hand. For those of you who might be new to Lorcana, how this mulligan process actually works is you are able to draw 7 cards. In so doing, you are able to look at your hand and decide on which cards you want to keep. As many as you want to put back is to your heart's content. And by doing so, you are then able to draw that much back and call it good. And so it looks like Alstorian is liking his hand and liking what to keep, and he's going to be going in with a Pete and then going with a Cindy. Now that's going to be a little bit intimidating, especially because you are anticipating that pretty much whatever you put out, he is going to be having a storm going on. So Hole in the Earth is going to be responding with a Cusco being in for ink and a Diablo, which is pretty much one of the best starts that you can have against a Cindy play, because you're not going to want to spend a storm in order to pop something as dumb as a Diablo and give your opponent a card. So at the same time, though, Alstorian is going still strong with the Smee, and instead is going to quest for 1 with the Cindy. And so it's actually going pretty well so far, and we're going to have to see what Hole in the Earth is going to be able to do to respond to this, because Smee's going to be able to quest for 2 and take a damage, but still at the same time, he's going to be in a place to be able to potentially get 6, while Hole in the Earth is trying to get as much ink in his inkwell as possible. You're not going to necessarily see a whole ton of Blurple acting out all that much. Maybe a Fox coming in to help do some board control. But right now, Alstorian is doing really well with the 2 Diablos especially. And that's going to help because playing Sail the Azurite Sea allows him to draw the card and replace the Sail the Azurite Sea. And the 2 Diablos on the board are at least going to be able to do some questing. And if he gets into some draw trouble, he's going to be able to do some good stuff. Now, at the same time, though, we have a Lawrence coming out on the board, being able to quest for 2 and deal 4 damage. Smee, then, at the same time, will be able to gain 2, take 1 damage, and we see Alstorian going up to 4. Now, at the same time, the Hole in the Earth is going to be up to 5 cards. That's not half bad, but this is going to be a big turn of events. Does he have a crab in hand? He's going to go ahead and ink a Sail the Azurite Sea to draw a card off of Genie, and then questing for 2. And so that's going to be a little bit tough to have to deal with because Alstorian is going to be able to quest for 5 and get up to 9, which can be a little bit dangerous. Now, I still really like the board presence that Hole in the Earth ends up having here. He's doing a good job. And we're seeing a silver aerial, a steel aerial for a Rapunzel to remove the damage and draw a card. Now, the big aerial is really interesting too, because anytime you play a song, aerial you can pay 2 to deal 3 damage to something. So mid to late game, that can be absolutely intense to have to face. And again, though, there's that quest for 9 and that 4 ink in the inkwell. So Hole in the Earth is probably feeling a little bit of pressure right now. This is a difficult situation for him to be in. Now, he has a lot of cards in hand. He'll be able to go for 5 ink. But at the same time, you just need to get some good board presence, especially with the fact that you have, 2 potential singers, one in Rapunzel, one in, Cinderella, which can go ahead and quest for up to 3, or it can sing a song for up to 3. That can be an absolutely devastating blow. Now, at the same time, you know that Alstorian has 3 cards in hand, so you're kind of trying to calculate how many of those are potentially songs. How many? What could he potentially play that can hurt or damage my board? At the same time, too, with the Diablos out on the board, if you have a crab, you can start to remove some things and get some card draw. If you can go a crab into Diablo and taking out a Smee or a Cinderella, and that's a completely viable turn. Even still, we are seeing a Sail the Azurite Sea, so he's going to be able to ink 2 cards in this turn, going up to 6. Now, once he's also able to do that, that can be absolutely a game changer. Ooh, there's the crab. Yep, exactly. Awesome. And so it looks like the Smee is going to be taken out. The Lawrence won't be able to necessarily. The Cindy is an all right choice. It feels like a good choice all the same, just because you're removing one singer. But with only 3 cards in hand, it's like, what are the odds that he has a song in hand? And so in this case, Hole in the Earth is going to be selecting the Cinderella, which is a great choice still, because you have to worry about these singers here. And if he's playing the big, if he's playing the big bell, or if the big aerial, there's a good chance that he's playing the big Cindy as well, and that's a shift 5, meaning that on the next turn he could go ahead and shift into big Cindy. So these are all calculations that you are going to be making during your game and trying to deduct what your opponent might be doing. And so right now, Hole in the Earth currently has 3 cards in hand at 6 ink. That means in this next turn, he could very well go into a Hades. And so that's actually pretty solid. So it looks like Ariel's going to be coming out onto the board, allowing him to dig into the top 4 cards of his deck and putting a song into his hand, which is going to be a strength. A Daisy coming out too is pretty good. Now, the Rapunzel can sing the song and deal 4 damage to anything. At the same time, that doesn't necessarily feel great. Yeah, but doing the strength on the crab is pretty much the best option, just because the hard part here is the Genie's only going to be taking 1 of that damage necessarily, so to be able to take 3 like that, on a crab is a lot better, especially because of the board control. The crab would be able to go into the Lawrence and then boost the Diablo to really finish it off, and then still be able to quest for 2 for Hole in the Earth, which is a great line for him to be able to take. So removing the crab with the strength was a great move there, and now he's got some really good board presence, able to now quest for 7 if he so chooses. Now, at the same time, coming in with the 7 ink, or the 6 ink, to play the Hades to bounce back the aerial is an absolutely good move. Now, you're also hoping that if the Daisy is going to be questing, that you are able to at least hit a character to add to hand, because if you're not able to, then you're going to be in a little bit of trouble with that as well. And so you got to really calculate what you're going to be doing. So Here's the Daisy trigger, and it's a Scrooge McDuck, which is a really good card for some board presence right there. Moving also Hole in the Earth up to 3 cards in hand. Now, inking a big queen. I mean, I'm loving this deck list so far. It's looking good. And going for a whole new world. Now, the difficult part is hard casting a whole new world incredibly slows down your gameplay. The fact that, Hole in the Earth took out the aerial, absolute great play on his part, because otherwise he would have been able to sing it for free. He would have then had 5 additional ink to be able to build up his board. And so this is an absolute great move here. But at the same time, he put another Daisy out on the board, and he is going to be questing for a lot. I'm loving Alstorian's deck, though, and just how aggressive it's able to be. The aerial is going to be a little bit interesting, the big aerial, but if he's able to get it off, it can really make some great board control. And he's been drawing pretty effectively. The whole new world has been an absolute great play here as well. And so I'm really liking how Alstorian is playing this. At the same time, he has been able to go first. And it's tough, though, because now you're going to be at 8 on Hole in the Earth side. And you're probably going to be tanking here a little bit, thinking, what could I possibly be doing? I have 7 cards in hand. Is that even enough to make a big enough impact? You have to remove everything except for the Daisy. He has the ink to do so. He can go, and attack into something with Hades, and then he can, bounce with a fox. He can boost with a crab, things like that. If an Elsa is even in hand, yes, that costs 5, and you're going to be at 8. So you could do even an Elsa and a crab if you have that option, or an Elsa and a fox if you have that option as well. A lot of options here, but the difficult part is what is in Hole in the Earth's hand right now, because if he doesn't quite have it, this is going to be a dangerous board for him to have to deal with, and Alstorian could very well be taking game 1. So I don't blame Hole in the Earth for thinking so long on this. I mean, a brand new hand and a very difficult board to have to deal with. So it's like, what could he potentially do? Going for a Sail the Azurite Sea for ink. Going for an Elsa. That's a good start. That's a good start. Now, of course, at the same time, that's going to be tough because it's like, you can go for, a Lawrence and the Unexerted Daisy, take out the Daisy with Hades and Genie. And okay, it looks like, though, the scoop is still there, unfortunately, and there's little to anything that he can do to be able to gain control of this board. And it's unfortunate, but at the same time, you saw just how aggressive Alstorian's board was. That is very difficult to have to deal with, and because of that, Alstorian takes game 1. All right, so this is going to be Hole in the Earth's big opportunity here. He gets to go first, and he's going to be going out with a Diablo and passing. This is going to be Hole in the Earth's big opportunity to gain control back in the game. And at the same time, we see a queen coming out, and the Shift Queen is just a very powerful card because whenever it quests, of course, it can -4 attack, if I remember correctly, to any opponent. And so he's going to be responding by Hole in the Earth is going to be responding by inking Sail the Azurite Sea to ink Sail the Azurite Sea and a Tipo. So, I mean, just a lot of movement going on right there. But again, hitting the ramp exactly as he needs to. And the thing here is he needs to gain control sooner rather than later and continue his ramp. The hardest part about running ramp in Lorcana, though, is the fact that you are going to be really struggling to maintain card draw. Now, of course, Amethyst does help with that a lot, and it has a little bit of board control, which is helpful, but this is still a very difficult situation for him to deal with. And so, in order to control the board a little bit better, he is going to be sending in his Chernobog followers into the Queen, and then playing a turn 3 Scrooge McDuck, which absolutely hurts. It's like, yes, Scrooge McDuck might not have any ability, but it can quest for 2 and is a 5/5. And he found the Zeus, which means Scrooge is on basically a turn 1 basis. Next turn, he is going to be taken out. That was the one card you really did not want the Aerial to have, because if the Aerial is able to then go ahead and get it done, then it's out. And literally for no cost. So very well, he could ink something and even play 2 Zeuses to take out both Scrooges. Oh, interesting. Inking an Aerial. Yep. Yep. Oh, that is so disgusting. Alstorian, man. But here's the thing. Does it suck that both Scrooges were taken out? Yes. But what does that mean for what else Alstorian has in his hand? And that's the question. And it's like, yes, he has, 4 cards in hand, but he's playing a little slow here. He's not playing very aggressive. He's missing a lot of potential here. And now he's playing a Pete and going to be singing A Whole New World. Yep, so he was struggling with cards a little bit here. Oh, 2 Whole New Worlds and a Storm going to the graveyard. And no, Elsa's going to the grave. The Banished is really welcoming those people. And unfortunately, Hole in the Earth had to let it go. But he's got a whole new 7 cards in his hand. A lot of possibilities on what he could possibly be playing. And he's already been ramping incredibly well. Going to be at 6 ink right here. So another Aerial he's going to be able to dig for. Now, at the same time, the good thing about seeing 2 Whole New Worlds in his hand after playing a Whole New World, there is only 1 more in his deck, and that is it. So right now, he's in a little bit of draw trouble. Yes, he has a brand new hand with 3 Singers out onto the field. That is very scary. That is very dangerous. Also, we can go ahead and take out one of the Singers, which is exactly what he's going to be doing. Great start. And of course, if Goat gets taken out too, he'll be able to gain the 1 lore, which is going to be very helpful as well. You still got to be wondering, how can I continue to get ahead? And that's a great start. That is a great start. Playing the Bell. Now, the big thing about the Bell here is it moves damage counters. The reason for that is because it is a set 1 card, and they were mainly dealing with damage counters at the beginning of the game, and so it can even ignore resist, which is something that is very important if you're ever going against a Calhoun here. Bell can move 2 damage counters onto Calhoun. Resist does not apply because it specifically says counters. If it just said damage, resist would come into effect. And gosh, Alstorian is still building a board, and he's singing Strength of a Raging Fire onto the Goat to finish it off. That feels pretty good. You're also assuming that he's potentially going to be sending the Lawrence into the Bell. That feels pretty good. At the same time, you're kind of weighing your options, especially as Hole in the Earth. You send, Bell into Aerial and then allow Lawrence to then take it out, or is there another song potentially in Alstorian's hand that could very well deal with your board? And Alstorian has 2 cards in hand. That's the thing too. That's very telling, and that can also help let you know, does he have the songs in play? You have seen how many songs he's already discarded. I would almost bet that those are characters. Those are 2 characters that he has in his hand still. And so, with that in mind, you can very well play this game a little bit differently. I would almost send the Bell in to the Aerial at that point, and then let Lawrence take it out, remove 2 of his characters, because right now we know that he could potentially be struggling with draw power. And so, with that in mind, he's going to be top decking. He's going to be at 3. He has 6 ink, which can be some pretty good options here. But also, you don't want him to go into the big Aerial, which he very well could this next turn. And that in and of itself is a big force to try to take on. So the attacking of the Bell, great move right there by him. And then also going for an Elsa to go ahead and deal 2 damage to the Lawrence. So it then can't take out the Bell, and just an absolute paramount play right there for Hole in the Earth. And right now, this game is looking like it is going in his favor. He's going to be inking an Elsa to go 2 to bounce back the Bell and quest for 1. Hole in the Earth right now is playing incredibly well here, and this is a night and day difference from his game 1, but the biggest reason for that is because Alstorian just went so into the aggro and just had the perfect hand for that to start. So he's going to kill the Elsa with Let the Storm Rage On, dealing 2 damage to the Elsa and drawing a card. And then, ooh, goes right in for the Rapunzel off the top deck and is able to draw 2 cards, removing 2 from the Ursula. Or from the, Lawrence. I mean, absolute great play there, and that's what you need to try to get back into this game. And a Queen and a Daisy and a Singing of a Strength to take out the Snake. Gosh. Alstorian is just finding all of the answers. He's not worried about ink. He's not worried about his board state. And this is where Blurple begins to really struggle. The reason for that is because Blurple has a lot of answers at the individual level. It does not have anything that can necessarily do a board wipe. And so he's in a very difficult situation here on what he can do. So a Fox is a really good way to start out. And it's like, but do you send that into the Ursula or do you send that into the Lawrence? The Lawrence is going to be questing for 2, and the Ursula is going to be singing for 4. And at the same time, though, he only has a couple of cards in hand. And so that's kind of the risk and reward that you're going to be asking yourself here for this situation. And so it looks like it is going to be a trade with the Fox. That hurts a little bit, but, it's still a great trade. And to also get another Scrooge McDuck out onto the battlefield is a great feeling as well. That can be a very dangerous board presence. He can take out a Daisy in one fall swoop. At the same time, though, if the big queen comes out, she can -4 to Scrooge McDuck. -4. And that's an absolutely another devastating blow to Scrooge McDuck, because now you can just -4 every time. And so this is actually really interesting too. I'm not seeing any quest with no questing with Queen, but I mean, hey, you're still trying to build your board state. You're a little bit worried about a Fox potentially that could come in and take it out. I'm trying to remember what specifically the Queen is at. I think the Queen is at 5. Let's see. I have all my amber cards right here. It's a 4/3. So a Fox very well could trade into it as well, bouncing back the Scrooge. And you wouldn't feel too bad about that. At the same time, though, this is such a dangerous board state to have to deal with. You're worried if he is playing a big Cinderella. He's already playing a big Queen and a big Ariel. There's a lot of things that he could potentially shift into. The Genie is a good start, at least, to get the card draw, giving him a little bit more weapons in his arsenal. But it's like you need to figure out how to shrink this board sooner rather than later. The Let It Go is going to be a very nice start, getting rid of the Queen. But here's the thing, though, like we just saw Alstorian do, both get to go into the Inkwell on the shift line, and that can be a very big difference here, going up to 7 ink just like that. That's an awesome right there. So even if he does have a big Cindy, he can just play it fresh. Doesn't need to worry about that. And so Hole in the Earth is going to be passing back the turn, and we're going to be seeing what Alstorian is going to be able to do to respond to this. Another Queen coming up. But here's the thing, though. That's all he's able to do, and it's really curious that he is not questing here. So everything is in Hole in the Earth's favor right now, and this is going to be a big turn. If he can build up the board better and gain control of the board state, then this game is as good as his. Going 6 already. That's a good move. What's he going to play? Is it a Hades? Give me the Hades. And yep, just get rid of the Daisy. Now, does it suck to, use the Hades ability to get rid of a Hades, or to get rid of a Daisy Duck? Yes, that hurts a little bit, but still, you're controlling the board state. You're questing for 4, and you're looking really good. At the same time, too, any damage that Scrooge McDuck plays, you know that he has a bell in hand. And so this is a really good move for him right here. And so I'm curious to see. Oh. So he's just going to quest for everything and pass for turn. But it also feels like this is almost too little too late. Hole in the Earth is going to be able to quest for a lot here, going 6, 7, 7 to go up to 18 if he so chooses to just even ignore his opponent's board state. And if he plays an Elsa, I mean, he did already put 2 Elsas into his banish So odds are he might not even have another Elsa in hand. Most people play 2, but Hole in the Earth very well could be playing 3, and if so, I mean, that would be an absolutely final devastating blow. So Hole in the Earth is tanking. He's thinking to go ahead and just quest the Scrooge McDuck. Is that going to be a great move? Nope, he's going to be going in and attacking in to the Queen again. Worried about that shift line. Don't blame him there at all. And then yeah, I mean, just control the state. You already know that, Alstorian is low on cards. And so, I mean, and then a library coming into play to move some things in, and yep, that's it. So Alstorian, after seeing that board state, is gonna, concede the game. Feels really good, and that was well earned by Hole in the Earth to take game 2. So Alstorian, though, too, also had 3 whole new worlds in his opening hand. Yikes. Just gonna say that right there and then. All right, here comes the Alstorian versus Hole in the Earth final round. This is going to be going down to the final game, and Hole in the Earth put 1 card back. He likes his starting hand. Now he's also going to be going second because he won game 2. Alstorian's going to be opting to go first. Alstorian also put 2 cards back and has no 1-drop. He put 2 back and has no 1-drop. That's a little scary, but also you're wondering how much of his hand did he like to only put back 2 cards. And the interesting thing about Blurple is, like, yes, you do want to hit the ground running, sure, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, Blurple is such a late game deck that you almost want to try to get a little bit of control also. So if you don't go on the full aggro front, this is a good state. But at the same time, though, passing to Hole in the Earth with no 1-drop almost gives him as though he is going first, because he's able to put a character out first, and yes, he's down in ink, but as soon as he starts ramping like he is, it's almost like Hole in the Earth has started to go first. And so this is going to be really interesting to see then who can gain control of the board state first, because right now Hole in the Earth is going first. Oh, and so a Storm, I mean, at the same time, though, that's a scary thing, too, because if Alstorian is playing a Storm, then he's getting in a little bit of trouble for some reason, and inking a Smee for an Aerial. So, I mean, these are some very difficult decisions that it seems like Alstorian is going to have to make here. He very well could be in some ink trouble, but also getting the Strength of a Raging Fire does feel good, because even so, you can deal potentially 3 damage out to a Scrooge if that does end up coming out. So Hole in the Earth, though, has a very big turn right here. He needs to figure out what to better do to gain control of the board state a little bit more. He's going to be inking a Tipo and going for a Genie to draw a card. Now, at the same time, you know your opponent has a Strength of a Raging Fire, could even potentially have a Zeus. And if your opponent goes ahead and Zeus's a Genie, that just feels bad. At the same time, though, Hole in the Earth has 6 cards in hand, so he has a lot of utility. And so, Storm and Storm on Genie. Yep, that will take out Genie. Or for a draw card. And that's the interesting thing, especially in NA. We've seen a lot more people actually be playing, instead of genies as much. They've just been going all in on rabbits and only playing like 2 genies. Because when stuff like this happens, at least if it happens to rabbit, then you at least get a card back. And so getting 2 cards back for a 4 cost feels a lot better than getting a 4 cost for 1 card. And that turn alone just really slowed down Hole in the Earth as well. And so he's going to be playing a little bit of catch up, getting to 5 ink this turn. At the same time, he could be playing a Sail the Azurite Sea or a Tipo. There's another Sail the Azurite Sea. He's going to be drawing a card, able to ink now 2. And so that'll get him up to 6, which means on the next turn, if he so chooses, he could very well be playing a Hades. And so this is the hard part for Alstorian, though. The longer this game goes, the more the tempo can shift into Hole in the Earth's favor, especially if you're not running into a lot of card draw. Now, the difficult part, too, with Hole in the Earth is if Alstorian plays a whole new world, then he loses his 4 cards, which could be very, very valuable to completely refill his hand for free. So, Strength of a Raging Fire on Rabbit. He is just board controlling here pretty aggressively, even though Hole in the Earth is able to get 5 cards and a whole new world. 5 cards just like that. That's what we were worried about. I mean, very, very well played by Alstorian here. This is a full momentum shift because he was able to keep the board cleared, even give his opponent card advantage, and then say, hey, guess what? Discard your entire hand. This is what you now have to work with. And I have my whole board built out while you have a fresh hand, but nothing to really work with on the board. And so at this point, Hole in the Earth needs to make a big move here. Maybe if we're lucky, he can go ahead and get a Diablo out and a Fox out. A Goat is a good start, but it's also kind of slow because your opponent's going to be able to quest for a decent amount as well. But then also, yeah, seeing that, go back, gain 2, go for a Fox. And it's like, well, what do you want to go into at this point? A Daisy would be very nice to go into. Don't get me wrong there, but at the same time, you're worried about the aerial here as well. So the aerial, one of the best cards for Amber, next to Rapunzel in this case. I mean, just both of them, very, very dangerous cards that you don't want to go against. I would almost even say it goes. I would say it goes Rapunzel, Ariel, and Daisy as the 3 best cards in Amber in that. Comment in the comments below if you think otherwise. But there's the Zeus. There's the Zeus. Not that he even needs to take care of that. He can send something in. It wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. Oh gosh, his board state. And again, this is what you want to do against Blurple. You want to beat Blurple, go as wide as you can and make it so hard for them to try to get your board clear. And there's the quest for 5 going up to 7. Hole in the Earth, you've got to be feeling the pressure right now on this board state. This is a very dangerous board state to find yourself in. What am I going to be able to do to get out of this? You have a Lilo in play, you have a Daisy in play. So a Genie goes into hand. And this is going to be a very difficult board state. I mean, Hole in the Earth has got to be feeling the pressure right now, but he has, 8, 9 cards in hand right now, so he does have a lot of possibilities here. There's a lot he could be doing, but Alstorian also with this deck right now is he is playing masterfully with his deck. Absolutely just loving the gameplay that he's able to show. And I mean, going wide against Blurple, like you said, is exactly what you want to do. Again, though, paying 4 for a Genie is so dangerous just because of all the removal that he's been able to display. One Strength of a Raging Fire will take out a Genie with ease at this point, and it's also very slow for the game state. You're going to be seeing your opponent going up to 14, 15 this turn, and that's if he doesn't play any songs to better control the board state. Even with, even an Elsa out on the field, Alstorian has the ink in hand to be able to take care of his board state in a very great manner. So, I mean, this hurts. It does, plain and simple. Alstorian is doing exactly what he's supposed to be doing, and Hole in the Earth is, digging a deeper and deeper hole. And so we see a Crab going in for ink for another Genie, trying to get some answers. You're hoping to get some good removal here on this next turn, because if you're unable to do that, then this game is as good as done. And Alstorian, I believe, even knows that. And so, but he has a Singer 6, a Singer 4, or a Singer 3, and a Singer 5. And so even if he so chooses, he can go ahead and Whole New World with Ariel to try to get even more in his arsenal. But it looks like he's just going to be going for the aggro to try to go in all in. Trying to figure out what... Singing with 2. Oh, to kill the Genies with strength and... Oh. Alstorian has just been in complete control this game. This game 3 is exactly what Alstorian needed to do. He's had the card draw, he's had the aggression, he's had the board control. A Hades has come out, but at the same time, Hole in the Earth has officially just gone into such a dangerous state. And that's the hard part. How do you face, such an aggressive deck going first? Especially when you aren't able to quite develop your board presence. You're able to develop your ink, but not your board presence. So that's just so difficult to have to deal with. And I mean, gosh, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 characters out onto the board. It's like, be prepared, On the Earth, I will sneak a be prepared into your deck right here, right now. But unfortunately, it doesn't feel like there's anything that he's going to be able to do. And Hole in the Earth is going to scoop it up and call it a GG. And with that, Alstorian is going to take Game 3 and the match. Well, Alstorian absolutely took that game and took control. Game 1, super aggro for Alstorian. Game 2, Hole in the Earth came back and said, not just yet, and managed to play a very great game, taking control from the get-go and managing to get all the way to 20 with ease. At the same time, though, in the final game, Alstorian was able to develop his board to the extreme and get his board state as wide as it could possibly go with 8 characters, and then ultimately say, Hole in the Earth, you're just not going to be able to play this game. You're going to watch me play and watch me win. And it's a very unfortunate for Hole in the Earth. I mean, very, very well played. Blurple was doing a great job with what it was able to do, and unfortunately, but fortunately for Alstorian at least, he was able to take this and win the challenge match. And so now the leaderboard is going to be changing, and Hole in the Earth, hopefully he can start getting some good wins. He is playing the deck incredibly well, and so it's tough when you are doing everything right, but the deck just is not quite performing. And so hopefully we can see a lot more from Hole in the Earth, and that he can continue to take it to this league and really start to climb up the leaderboards. He's been a great player and a great addition to this league, and so we're just hoping that he is able to start getting some wins in and to see what he can really do. Because I know, from seeing his gameplay and from seeing him play, and even from, I think I've gone against him once or twice, that, his current ranking on the leaderboard does not reflect how skilled he is as a player. And I think the rest of the season, he is going to prove that where he is at currently is not where he is going to end up. And so I'm super excited to see what Hole in the Earth is going to be able to do. And with that being said, guys, we are going to sign off. Have a good one, and see you next time. Oh.